What does the sound of history make? I did not hear it as a roar or a trumpet. I heard it as a low hum, steady, nervous, coming from a control room filled with men who refused to blink. It was July 1969. I was sitting behind a console at Cape Kennedy, my palms damp, my eyes burning from sleepless nights. On the other side of the Atlantic, the moon hung in the sky like a silent judge, pale, distant, unimpressed. And I remember thinking, what if we fail? What if the moon remains untouched, not because we couldn't reach it, but because we dared and fell? That night, America was not just aiming for the moon. We were trying to prove something to the world, to our enemies, and to ourselves. I was born in 1935 in a country that believed progress was inevitable. By the time I was old enough to understand the world, America had just emerged from a brutal war as a global power. We had factories that never slept, highways that cut across continents, and a quiet confidence that tomorrow would always be better than today. But the 1950s were not as calm as they looked in photographs. Under the polished smiles and suburban lawns, there was fear. Fear of nuclear sirens, fear of red maps spreading across the globe, fear that the future might belong to someone else. When the Soviets launched Sputnik in 1957, it felt like a slap in the face. A beeping metal sphere, barely visible in the night sky, had suddenly made the heavens feel hostile. I was a young engineer then, fresh out of college, staring at newspaper headlines that asked the unthinkable. Had America fallen behind? Space, once the realm of poets and dreamers, became a battlefield. The problem was not just technological, it was psychological. Every Soviet success felt louder than it was. Every American delay felt heavier than it should. We watched as Yuri Gagarin orbited Earth, smiling, alive, victorious. The message was clear. They had beaten us into space. In response, our leaders made a decision so bold it bordered on madness. We would go to the moon. Not someday, not gradually, before the decade was over. I remember the day the announcement echoed through our offices. Some men cheered, others went silent. A few stared at the floor, already calculating the risks. We knew what the public didn't. We were not ready. Rockets exploded. Computers filled entire rooms, yet made simple mistakes. Heat shields cracked, guidance systems drifted, and people died. I lost friends in training accidents. I watched test vehicles vanish in fireballs that left nothing behind but smoke and paperwork. Still, we pushed forward, because quitting now would mean something worse than failure. It would mean surrender.
It keeps failing the pre-check.
By the mid-1960s, the race had consumed us. The moon was no longer a celestial body. It was a deadline. We worked 16-hour days fueled by cold coffee and stubborn belief. Engineers argued until voices broke. Astronauts trained until bones ached. Every bolt, every wire, every decimal point mattered. And all the while, the world was watching. Civil rights marches filled the streets. The Vietnam War bled into living rooms. Cities burned. Trust fractured. Some people asked why we were spending billions to chase a rock in the sky while problems rotted at home. I asked myself the same question, usually at 3 a.m., staring at blueprints under fluorescent lights. But deep down, I knew the answer. The moon was never just about distance, it was about direction. If we could aim that high together, maybe we could still believe in a shared future. July 20th, 1969. The room was quiet in a way I had never experienced. Not peaceful, tense, like the moment before a verdict is read. Telemetry scrolled down screens. Heartbeats echoed through headsets. Every breath felt borrowed. Then the words came through the static. The eagle has landed. For a second, no one moved. Then the room erupted, not in cheers, but in exhalations. Grown men wiped their eyes. Hands shook. Someone laughed too loudly. I did not cry. I stared at the screen and imagined dust untouched for billions of years, yielding to a human footprint. When the first man stepped onto the surface, it felt unreal. Not because it was small, but because it was too large to grasp. At that moment, America was not perfect, but we were capable. We had turned fear into fuel, rivalry into resolve, and imagination into engineering. The moon did not change overnight. Wars did not end. Injustice did not vanish. The world remained complicated and cruel, but something shifted. For one brief moment, humanity saw itself from afar, a fragile blue sphere hanging in darkness. I retired years later, my hair gray, my hands unsteady. Sometimes I still look up at the moon and smile, not with pride, but with humility. Because the greatest lesson of the space age was never about conquest. It was this: when fear divides us, we stagnate. When curiosity unites us, we move forward. The moon did not belong to America, but the journey there belonged to everyone who dared to believe the future was worth reaching.